I've just debuted my new book on the Djinn called The Djinn Connection, the hidden links between the Djinn, shadow people, ETs, the Nephilim, Archons, Reptilians, and other entities. And by other entities, I'm including the Anunnaki, the ancient gods and goddesses. By other entities, I'm including many other beings that humans have had interactions with over the centuries. Ancient gods and goddesses, the ancient aliens, of course, fairies, even ghosts and poltergeists, shadow people especially. This work brings a lot of things into focus. I show the interconnections, the ways that the Djinn have literally infiltrated our entity contact experiences, how they're masquerading in different forms, how they've been doing so throughout the centuries. We really need to reevaluate all of our entity contact experiences throughout the ages. There is an agenda, and it's very similar to what people say is the ET agenda. It's to have a bigger presence on the planet, to create hybrids who have the ability to stay in the physical dimension for extended periods of time. And the hostile ones, we can consider them like human terrorists. They want the destruction of humanity. They at least want us out of the way.
And how do they propose to do that? What's their agenda in that regard? What's the methodology?
Many methodologies. By being hidden, by being disguised as different kinds of entities, they can interact with and have effects on humans from a variety of approaches. One is to torment, and that's to cause people problems, to get them to have unbearable lives, to not be able to live in certain places. They can possess people, and that enables them to operate within a human body. They abduct people. They take them to other places where they may have sexual intercourse with humans to create hybrids. The hybrid would be a being who has physical characteristics, perhaps could pass as a human being, but have Djinn powers, Djinn consciousness, and perhaps a Djinn alliance. Certainly would be conditioned by the Djinn.
Now, what sort of powers are we talking about? Are we talking about people who've got extrasensory perception or other means of operating? What are Djinn powers versus human powers?
They have a greater ability to do telepathy. They can shapeshift quite easily. They are masterful shapeshifters. This is something that human beings have to undergo through a lot of training to master. So they have the ability to appear in many guises. They can transport themselves instantly from one place to another. They can dematerialize quite easily.
Now,
they can levitate.
Are you saying humans can do this?
Djinn.
Djinn.
These are the Djinn powers. And a hybrid would have at least some of those abilities or a range of abilities.
In what way would they do that? I mean, surely the natural human state had transportation powers. It's just that's been reduced in us. Are you saying that that's actually a Djinn attribute, but humans didn't have that to start with?
Whatever powers humans had in the beginning have been lost or forgotten or dampened down in the process of our evolution. We have those abilities within us, and in fact, futurists have written on the new human who's going to recover those abilities.
Yeah, there's a great deal of talk on this transhumanization, cyborgization of humanity using nanotechnology in humans. Is this feeding the Djinn power to people, or what?
The Djinn are looking for ways to manipulate abilities for their own ends. Now, the Djinn live in another dimension attached to Earth. And
what does that mean?
That means that they are usually invisible to us, but they can make themselves visible. They have an attachment to the land. They literally exist on the land, but they're kind of around a bend in space and time. And so we don't encounter them like we encounter other humans on the street, but we do have interactions with them when it suits the Djinn's purpose to take advantage of us, to make use of our life force, our sexual inclinations, our bodies. They can make themselves manifest.
What was the original reason that the Djinn were banished, and what does banishment mean? Why were they feel wronged, so to speak?
There are different versions of how the Djinn lost their place in the world, and one ancient legend says that they were given dominion over the planet, but they grew too powerful and too arrogant, and Allah took their powers away and sent them away to remote, lonely places.
This sounds almost like the story of Atlantis, the way they
abused their power. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. And a story that we read from the Quran tells that again, it was arrogance that caused their loss of place. They were quite powerful. They had access to the heavens along with the angels. And when God created human beings, he told the angels to bow down before Adam, and the angels complied. But the Djinn refused, and their reasoning was that man was inferior to them, and they did not feel like doing so. They had the free will to decline. This was very disturbing to Allah, and so he cursed them and cast them out. Well, they asked for another chance to redeem themselves, so they were given until Judgment Day to prove their case that human beings are not worthy. So many of them torment human beings with the objective of causing human weaknesses to come to the fore.
So does that mean that they have now got access to our so-called world, and if we allow it, they will take control, they'll take our world from us?
I do believe that a faction of the Djinn have that agenda, that it's natural. If human beings are pushed out of their homeland, they want to go back. They want to reclaim their homeland. And there are, among human beings, the terrorists, the people who will take extreme action to reclaim that territory.
Now, there are some researchers saying there's a major attack on the pituitary gland, and the pituitary gland is the mechanism when the human physical body is created. That's the mechanism which allows a human soul to enter a human body. But by tampering with that, it allows non-human souls to enter the human body. Is that how the Djinn are accessing humanity, to eventually kick human souls out? So in essence, human souls will then end up where the Djinn are, out of the ability to materialize in this world.
It certainly would be one of their approaches. I believe that they have a multi-pronged campaign, that there are various ways that they are looking to subjugate, dominate, subdue, and even banish human beings. For them, occupying a human body would have the advantage of being able to spend prolonged times in the physical world. But it's not a body well suited long term to their powers, and this is why a hybrid would be more desirable. Something that would blend the Djinn genetics with the human.
What were the original forms of the Djinn? Were they like the reptilians, or what? What were their original physical form?
Nobody knows what the original form of the Djinn are. In the ancient legends that go back to pre-Islamic times, they were created from the desert winds. They were shapeless and shape-shifting. However, in the folklore that has evolved from human experience with them, the reptilians, snakes, lizards, the ET reptilians that we encounter today, these would be considered favored forms of the Djinn. They like animal forms. They like hybrid animal forms, that is, animals that are combinations of characteristics of multiple animals. They can look like humans and be beautiful, seductive humans. They can masquerade as ETs. So they can take different forms, but these forms are temporary. In order for them to occupy the physical world on a prolonged basis, they would need some sort of form that could stay here.
In other words, the hybrids that people are talking about in the ET domain. I mean, essentially it seems that the entire ET story, that we're at the International UFO Congress right now, but the entire story, the entire mythos of the ET situation in the late 20th century seems to be basically Djinn.
I do believe that the Djinn are major players in the ET contact and abduction scenario. There are some people who might even say the Djinn account for everything. Well, it's impossible for us to know that, and I make that comment in the Djinn Connection, that we don't know the exact extent. My feeling is it's far more than we might like to believe.
In other words, the whole ET agenda is a Djinn agenda. But that makes it a terrestrial agenda.
The truth is right here on Earth. It's not out in other planets. It's not from star sisters and brothers. It's right here on Earth with beings who are interdimensional, who have a stake on this planet.
How do humans wake up and deal with this?
We have to realize that we share the planet with other entities. Some of them are friendly, some of them are neutral, some of them are hostile. We do not have eminent domain on the planet. We think that we can subdue and banish whatever we don't like, and that's not the case. The Djinn,
fighting Mother Nature.
Exactly. The Djinn exert themselves over and over again to demonstrate that they can be superior to us. So we have to see the big picture. We have to broaden our perspective. We have to realize that there are powerful entities out there who have agendas that are not very friendly toward us. This is not something that happens on the fringe to fringe people. It happens every day to ordinary people in all walks of life in a variety of ways.
The domain of the Djinn, why were they banished and where were they banished to? Just to get our perspectives as to where they've gone and why they want to come back.
The story that's told in the Quran is that the Djinn had a lot of power, and they had access to the heavenly realms. They had traffic with the angels, but they had free will, whereas the angels do not. When God made human beings, he wanted the angels to bow to Adam, and the angels complied. But Iblis, who was in heaven among the angels, declined, and he said that was because human beings were inferior to his kind.
Why were they inferior? What powers did the Djinn have at that time, and what powers did humanity have?
His answer, the answer that Iblis gave was that he was made of fire, smokeless fire, and human beings were just earth and water, just kind of clay or mud. And that this was, their very substance was inferior to his kind, who could fly on the winds and shapeshift. And so he considered these beings to be beneath him, as we might consider animals to be beneath us.
But at least animals are made from the same biological material in many respects, so there's a huge difference then. So what was the big fallout? And who is this God character anyway?
Well, many people have debated exactly who the entity is that we call God. But the Djinn were cursed and cast out. So they no longer had official access to the heavenly realms. They no longer really had a place on earth. And that was given to human beings. So where did they go? They went into subterranean places. They went into the remote, lonely places. In modern terms, that would be described as into another dimension. The same story is told about fairies retreating further and further against the advances of human beings until they too are below the earth and in literally another realm that is like another dimension.
Now, what is this realm? I mean, the fairies, you've introduced them, the hobgoblins, all sorts of things that go bump in the night, all that sort of thing. What realm are we talking about there, the fairy realm?
It's literally another dimension. Now, according to modern physics, we have approximately 11 dimensions in our multiverse, in our around the Earth. These would be dimensions that would be associated with the Earth itself, not other planets, not outer space, right here on Earth. And it would be a world just like this, but something that we can't see. It could be a world very different, but they're existing on the Earth in their own way, but we just don't interact with them except at certain times and places. Well, the Djinn have the ability to come into our world through thin spots between dimensions, portals or windows or doorways. They know how to access these. They also know how to access the world through humans. And they really like it when humans want to summon them and conjure them because it calls them into our world. So actually we summon the Djinn whenever we give in to greed, whenever we're looking for a fast buck, whenever we want to manipulate people, acquire power, and we want to do it on the fast track. That enables them to come into this world and make use of our weaknesses.